Greetings. Reverend Patricia Sunday here. We're back with our study in the Word, a study in the Word of God, beginning to end, Genesis to Revelation. We've just finished up with chapter 3 of Genesis, and we're going today to begin in chapter 4. I told you some astounding things out of the Word in chapters 2 and 3. You're probably still reeling from that. But now we're going to find out more about the lineage of good and evil. And Adam knew his wife. Now, you see, it never said back in chapter 2 and 3 that Adam knew his wife. And when we say knew, we all know that means had marital relations, had sex with his wife. So Adam knew his wife, and she conceived and bore Cain. Now, so this was the first instance of her having sex with her husband. They were already out of the Garden of Eden. Let's think about that for a minute. In the Garden of Eden, there was a man and a woman. And they were there naked for a long time. But it never says they had sex. You see, because the Garden of Eden was like where we're going, because there will be no marriage or giving in marriage. There will be no sex, and there will be no children being born where we're going. Our body will be changed back like it was in the beginning of the Garden of Eden, before God had to put coats of skin on their bodies and cover up their glory. So now we're seeing they're out of the Garden of Eden. They're in the natural world now. So Adam and Eve have marital relations, and she conceived, and she bore Cain and said, I've gotten a man for the Lord. I've gotten a man for the Lord. She thinks she's gotten a man for the Lord. But now wait. The reason they were kicked out of the garden was because she and Adam had sex with Satan. Remember, I taught that last time in the last chapter, and I explained it all, so don't look shocked. And I explained how it happened and what it was all about. Now, in verse 4, they're out of the garden, and now Adam's had sex with her, so she thinks that she's conceived something good. But wait, in verse 2 says, she again bore his brother Abel. 2 children, twins. And Abel was a keeper of sheep. Now the sheep represent us, the good pasture. And Cain was a tiller of the ground. The ground being what Satan crawls on. So now in verse 1 and 2, it shows us that Eve got pregnant with twins. The first one she thought was from the Lord. Why did she distinguish that one as being from the Lord and not Abel? Because somehow she knew that one came from the serpent in the garden. And essentially she's calling him the Lord. She was very deceived. And she again bore his brother Abel. And Abel was the keeper of the sheep, good. And Cain was a tiller of the ground, bad, evil. And in the course of time, it came to pass that Cain brought of the fruit of the ground an offering to the Lord. And Abel also brought of the firstborn of his flock, and of the fatlings thereof. And the Lord was pleased with Abel and with his offering, but with Cain and his offering he was not pleased. So Cain was exceedingly displeased, and his countenance was sad. And the Lord said to Cain, why are you displeased, and why is your countenance sad? Behold, if you do well, shall you not be accepted? Ah! So here we have the first instance of a tare being from the line of Satan, even though he is a serpent and evil. If you do well and you make the right sacrifice and the right choice for Jesus, Yeshua, then you have a chance for salvation. So yes, a reptilian can still be saved. Which is why the Lord says, reach out and witness to everyone, even the wheats and the tares. And so, behold, if you do well, shall you not be accepted? And if you do not well, sin lies at the door. You should return to your brother, and he shall be subject to you. So he's talking to Cain. Your brother Abel will be subject to you if you do what's right. But if you don't do what's right, sin lies at your door. Verse 8, and Cain said to Abel his brother, let us go to the plain. And it came to pass that they were in the field, and Cain rose up against Abel his brother and slew him. So the firstborn son, good son, died at the hands of an evil Cain, who Cain was from the line of Satan, because all Satan is a liar and a murderer from the very beginning. And the Lord said to Cain, verse 9, where is Abel, your brother? And he said, I don't know. Am I my brother's keeper? He lied to God. So there, not only did he just commit murder, but he lied to God. And he knew he was God. And the Lord said, what have you done? The voice of your brother's blood cries to me from the ground. You know, the Lord hears everybody who is good that's ever died, who has been murdered. He knows everything. And their blood cries to him from the ground for retribution, vindication, repayment. Verse 11, and from henceforth you are cursed from the earth, which has opened its mouth to receive your brother's blood from your hand. So he cursed Cain's line. Circle cursed. The word curse there. Verse 12, when you till the ground, it shall no more yield to you its strength. A fugitive and a wanderer shall you be on the earth. Circle fugitive and wanderer. So all of Cain's line now is cursed. Well, it was already cursed, but it's doubly cursed for what the first man born of Satan did. And Cain said to the Lord, my transgression is too great to be forgiven. Oh my goodness. So Cain's murder was too great to be forgiven. Behold, thou hast driven me out this day from the face of the land, and from thy face shall I be hidden. And I shall be a fugitive and a wanderer on the earth, and it shall come to pass that whoever finds me shall slay me. Whoever finds me shall slay me. Underline, whoever finds me shall slay me. Excuse me. And the Lord said to him, it shall not be so. God is so merciful. Do you see that? It shall not be so. Whoever slays Cain, vengeance shall be taken on him sevenfold. So why did God let Cain go on out in the world? Didn't want anybody to kill him because he wanted that line to continue. He wanted the line of good and evil, the line of the wheats and tares to grow together. It was his plan from the very beginning. And the Lord said to him, it shall not be so. Whoever slays Cain, vengeance shall be taken sevenfold. And the Lord set a mark. All right. We talk about the mark in the end of time, don't we? Well, here is your mark. The Lord set a mark. The Lord makes the mark. The Lord gives the mark. Just like he did for circle Lord, set a mark. Lord set a mark upon Cain so that anyone who may find him may not kill him. All right, so I'm telling you here, the Lord marks every human being on the earth with either a good or an evil mark. It's in your forehead. It can be seen through photography, new technology. It has been discovered that everybody has some kind of mark on your head. On the internet, there's a man called I Spy, is his moniker on the YouTube, and he has taken a computer program and he has split people's faces and make totem poles. There's different totem poles on everybody. On evil people, it's a totem pole. On some people, it looks like a medal of valor. The one on Donald Trump, to me, looks like a medal of valor, something that says, this man is going to do something great for me. So you never, so I think God has a different marking for everybody, for whatever you're doing. I always tell people, well, I woke up one morning with this little brown cross on my nose. I just got up one morning. You could see it plainly right there on my nose, except it was right up here to begin with, right between my eyes, right here. It's moved down to here as I get older. I'm 70 years old, so it's just gone that far. But I woke up that morning and there it was. It was an outward sign, though, because the Lord called me to ministry at that time and told me I was going to be revealing his word. So that's what I'm doing. But not everybody has a visible something. Everybody has an invisible something on you. So in verse 15, let's circle that whole verse, as well as circling the Lord set a mark, because it's God that gives the mark, not the devil, not Satan, not man. Now they're talking about computer chips, and yes, there will be chips and there will be markings, but they'll be for different things. You can take it or not. I advise I wouldn't take anything it's going to put something under your skin or in your skin. And I want to stop here right now and tell you that the mark that is in your right hand Not all Bibles say right hand. Some say, most of them just say hand, either hand. Or your forehead is what you think and what you do with your hands, how you set your hands in your life. And you can find that more identified in the Shema Jewish prayer, because that is what tells you what about the forehead and the hand and how it was used and observed. Jesus knew that when he was here on earth. So if you really want to study and get deeper into it, I would advise you looking into the Shema prayer. And a Shema in Hebrew means listen. So it's something you need to listen to, because it gives you some revelation knowledge of what a forehead and hand mark is. So verse 16, and Cain went out from the presence of the Lord and dwelt in the land of Nod on the east of Eden. And Cain knew his wife. Wait a minute. And she conceived and bore Enoch. This is not there's two different Enochs here in this lineage. They're not the same person. One died and one was translated. Now, Cain knew his wife, but have we talked about any women anywhere in the Bible here? Where did he get his wife? That's something that you have to also study and think about. Was it that he had to marry his sister? Did Adam and Eve have more children? Yes. Between the time they had other children, but there had to have been a wife out there for him to marry. Because he took a wife and they had children. Verse 16, and Cain went out from the presence of the Lord, dwelt in the land of Nod. So I'm thinking that the earth that was without form and void had other people on it when God made the Garden of Eden and transformed the earth. So whatever happened back here in Genesis, between Genesis verses 1 and 2, the earth was remade, and there were some people that survived through the making of it. But it looked like the earth was all water, but that doesn't mean it was. It just means God separated the waters and made some dry land. So it looks to me like there was, even before Noah and the flood, there was another type of flood on the earth that caused all this destruction, where the Lord had to come in and remake it. And then he set apart a Garden of Eden where he started a new line of people, and Satan came in and perverted it. Otherwise, Cain would not have had anybody to marry. Are you following me? Does that make sense? So now they're gone out of the Garden of Eden. They can't go back there anymore, because that was like the New Jerusalem that's coming. That was a set-apart place for God's new creation. Just as the New Jerusalem is going to be our set-apart place for us, who will be the new creation, which is God's old creation that fell. Now, verse 16. And Cain went out from the presence of the Lord, dwelt in the land of Nod and east of Eden, and came to his wife, and she conceived and bore Enoch, and he started to build a village, and named the village after his son Enoch. And to Enoch was born Irad, and Irad begot Mehujael, and Mehujael begot Methuselah, and Methuselah begot Lamech. And Lamech took 2 wives. Wait a minute. 2 wives. So what do we have here? We have 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 generations. These 4 generations had to have women on the earth to marry to produce. So what we are seeing is God's line going out into the world, which was already evil, and mixing with Cain's line and Satan's line. Because good and evil, wheat and tares, have to grow together. Now, we're going on through the lineage. And he took 2 wives, and one was Adah, and one other was Zillah. And Adah bore Jabal, who was the father of those who dwell in tents, and are owners of cattle. And his brother's name was Jubal, and he was the father of all those who played the guitar and harp. And Zillah also bore Tubal-Cain, a craftsman in every work of brass and iron. And the sister of Tubal-Cain was Naamah. And Lamech said to his wives, Adah and Zillah, hear my voice, you wives of Lamech. Hearken to my speech, for I have killed a man by wounding him, and a boy by beating him. So now Lamech has gone out and killed a man and a boy, and he says he's going to excuse his murder now. He's going to say, well, for if Cain is to be avenged 7-fold, then Lamech 70 and 70-fold. So he's making his own line, his own excuse for murder, because he's coming from Cain's line, whose father was the devil. Verse 25, and Adam knew his wife, Eve, again. Again, wait a minute. So this is the second time now that Adam has had sex with his wife, Eve. So we're backing up a little bit here in verse 25 to back a little bit. And we've gone through the lineage of Cain, but now we're going to go back and go through the lineage of Adam and Seth. Because the first child was killed. So now he's conceived another, and they bore a son, and they called him Seth. For God, she said, has given me another offspring instead of Abel, whom Cain slew. So what we're seeing here is a picture of God has given me another offspring instead of Abel, whom Cain slew. And to Seth also there was born a son, and he called his name Enosh. Then men began to call upon the name of the Lord. So it wasn't until Seth was born from Adam and Eve that man began to call upon the name of the Lord. So Seth must have been a preacher. Seth was someone who understood what had happened to his parents in the garden, saw what happened to Cain, and so Seth goes out and he becomes a preacher of righteousness. Now, we're not going to get very far into chapter 5, I don't think, before I'm going to have to stop because, you know, I'm on a time limit for each of these teachings. So I'm going to go ahead and just get into it a little bit. We're going to have to, I think what I'm going to do is just give an overview of chapter 5 because this is the book of the generations of Adam, and you can read this for yourself. There's a lot of names and lineage, but I'll do the important parts and brief, put it in conciseness for you. This is the book of the generations of Adam. In the day that God created man, in the likeness of God created him. Male and female he created them, and God blessed them and called them Adam. In the day when they were created. Adam lived 130 years and got a son in his own likeness after his own image and called his name Seth. So Seth was the preacher of righteousness that carried on what the Lord wanted in the Garden of Eden. And Adam lived after he had begotten Seth 800 years, and he begot sons and daughters. Thus all the days that Adam lived were 930 years, and he died. And Seth lived 105 years and begot Enosh. And Seth lived after he begot Enosh 800 years and 7 years, and begot sons and daughters. And all the days of Seth were 912 years. Now I'm going to go down and list each one of them. Seth, 912 years. Enosh, 905 years. Canaan, 910 years. Malel, 895 years. Jared, 962 years. Enoch. Okay, when we get down to verse 21, here we go. And Enoch lived 65 years and begot Methuselah. And Enoch found favor in the presence of God 300 years, and he begot Methuselah, and Methuselah begot sons and daughters, and all the days of Enoch were 365 years. And Enoch found favor in the presence of God and disappeared. Wow! And God took him away. Wait, let's see. Something happened here. Let's back up. See, when you find something like this, you got to back up. You got to eat. Enoch lived 65 years, okay? And Enoch found favor in the presence of God 300 years after he begot Methuselah. So Enoch lived 365 years. That's sort of akin to our 365 days in a year now, isn't it? So God changed time here. And all the days of Enoch were 365 years, and Enoch found favor in the presence of God and disappeared, for God took him away. So this is the first rapture in the Bible. I'm going to write in my Bible the first rapture, because we're going to see a succession of raptures. I want you to be, as we go through the study of the Word, beginning to end, Genesis to Revelation, we're going to pay particular attention to rapture verses and resurrection verses. Right here is the first rapture was Enoch. Not the first Enoch that Cain bore. See, Cain bore an Enoch. But Seth also had in his line an Enoch. And this was the one that God found favor in, which is why he's given us an example by rapture as opposed to what happens to Cain's line. Now Methuselah lived 87 years and begot Lamech. There's another Lamech. But this Lamech, you see, is the good Lamech. The other Lamech was the one that made excuses for murder. So we're seeing a picture of two different lines. And I once again have to stop. Thank you for listening to the word.